Hey everybody, it's Brent, Central Arkansas. Early in the morning. Out here at No Fuss Garden. And I can already hear the bees. The bees have come in now. Can you hear them? Oh man, it's a wonderful sound. Love it. I don't know what kept them so long this year, but they're here now. Alright, and this whole row, as you may remember if you're following along, I planted butternut, and I've got all kinds, all shapes, all looks, and they're maturing pretty darn good. There's a short squatty, my hand for reference, it's small, and then right next to it we've got a long one with a long neck. We've got round ones, like here. And we got more traditional looking one. This one's selfed. That means I took a flower from the same plant and pollinated it. So if this one turns out to taste really good, it's a promise because it's got the shape and everything I like. And I managed to self a few of those. Here's a couple other potentials, although those weren't selfed. And we still got blooms, as you can see, and the bees are hitting them, so that's all good. Staring back towards the gate on the opposite end here are melons, this whole row. And these are ambrosia F4 melons, and they're starting to develop. They're starting to get big, rather. I've got several of those in here. Just all in here. It's a really productive melon. Probably because I saved the seeds here for several generations. And it's become more acclimated than other melons. Which brings me to the next bit of garden over here. That's just a couple of Madison's cross that were added later to fill the holes. These are the Suyo cucumbers here, and they're not Parthena carpet, but the bees have no problem pollinating them. It's not one of my more favorites, but I'm going to save the seed from them and give some of those away in case someone really wants some of those. Got Uncle Don's melon here. You can tell by the color. I think it's a form of a canary melon, and there's probably 3 or 5 of those here. We've got some kind of melon here. I don't know what it is. I'll find out what it is when it's mature. But there's a few of them. There's probably 2 or 3 of those melons. Those melons get pretty good size. And then right into here, I think is a Kirkman melon. You see it here. It's a pretty color. And I believe it's either a Kirkman or a Tapeta melon. And let's see what else we got down here. We can see any. I'm looking. I will just go with what I actually do see. And we've got a couple crane melons here. And the crane melons they have a little bit of a hard time. They're trying to yellow out here towards the base. And they're having a little bit of a hard time. But they tend to pop up late evening, really late evening, just before dark, and early morning like it is now. They seem to do really well. These are my eggplants, Listada de Gandia. And I topped them one time, and they're starting to flower. And you even have one fruit there. It's a pretty eggplant, or aubergine, as the British folks say. But anyway, we've got lots of flowers on there, and the bees are hitting them, and the melons are invading them. I might top them again, just make them really bushy. Right next to it is Uncle Don's okra. It's a very unique okra. It's red. All of the stems and the veins in the leaves are red, and they get really long. I've got several pods on there. As you can see, I haven't picked one actually, and I've got I'm going to save seed from these. Here's another one over here, but as they mature they start to get the red on them here too. It's a really good okra. It's tender up to about 8 to 10 inches, sometimes even more than that, according to Uncle Don. And I can feel that they're tender when they get good size. They get kind of long and slender like this, and then they swell a little bit. When they start swelling, that's when they get a little tougher. But anyway, it's a really cool okra. Very happy Uncle Don gave those to us. Got some peppers here of my breeding, and I'm not real pleased with most of them. This is a cow horn shaped one, but it's a sweet pepper. And then some over here, but I do have an interesting one that I like, and it's this one here, and I call this one Gina Bella. In fact, this is a sister to it, and it didn't perform. It didn't do kind of like it did last year. But anyway, this is what that plant looks like, and probably the one we'll carry forward. This is a Kavili. It gave up the ghost, and we've got another one there, seed squash. It's getting close, and they're pretty mature. It's how you tell when they're ready, is when it's hard to push a fingernail in, and I can push a fingernail in a little bit, so it might have gave up a little too soon. I don't see any squash vine borer damage on here, so it didn't die off because of that, thank goodness. But I pulled up the Golden Glory, and some of the Christmas that I didn't care for, I saved one here that I liked. And that's the pattern. It's the round one with the pattern. I crossed with the green with the pattern, and I like that one, so I'm going to keep that one. And there's its seed squash, and we'll grow that one out next year. All the rest of these were Christmas that I pulled up and I replanted, different variety. And as long as we're running this row from here all the way over, we're early prolifics, regular old early prolifics. In fact, I've got 2 plants still with seed squash on them that I crossed with Madison's cross to make the hybrid. And in the holes that were removed, the squash was removed, I've already replanted. So hopefully those will come along soon. The rest of these in this row is Madison's cross. And I'm still getting squash. You can see there. This one's ready to be picked. And the bees are doing a good job now. There's another one ready to be picked. I'm just getting inundated with squash. Lots of squash, all I can eat. And Madison's cross is a really, really flavorful squash. I love it. And another thing I just found out is that there were some squash bugs on the early prolific, and there's not hardly any squash bugs. 1 or 2 few on Madison's cross, but hardly any, which means that it's resistant. It's just the squash bugs don't care for it as much, as what I should say, as the early prolific. So, and I think the squash bugs are also some on the Christmas, so they all flocked to those and left Madison's cross alone. But you can see I have self squash, means it was crossed back to itself to save seed for the next generation. And I've got some EPs. Let's see if we can find one. Yeah, an EP. That means it was crossed with early prolific to make the hybrid. I am starting to get some tomatoes ripening up. See there. And they're not doing as well as they are in the greenhouse. They're struggling a little bit more, but I am getting some production off of them. These are black cherry. Looks like I waited too long and bird. Something hacked into this one. Anyway, the black cherries are producing. See some there. And sun's coming through. I hope it's not blinding you. But it does make it easier to see the fruit as we go along here. Some pretty good examples down there. A little bit of splitting. And this plant I like. I don't know if it's an amber flare or one of my succeeds. We'll see. And then from here down are lacy. I really like lacy. Lacy is pretty close to being open pollinated. And I will share some of those seeds as an open pollinated variety before too long. I don't think it'll be this year, but definitely will in the near future. This is pretty typical of Madison's Cross versus early prolific in the others. Here you got 3 out of 3 edible size squash out of 9 plants. So that's 1/3 produced today. 1 squash for every 3 plants. Anyway, I've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 14 squash out of 16 plants. So that's a higher percentage of production per plant. Not to mention the fact that we've got the bigger ones outside that I'm going to go over. But Madison's Cross always outproduces early prolific. I would say at least 5 to 1, always. The sun is now crusted the horizon, and we've got a full show going on now. And that's what we've got. It's a little sparse throughout here, but I've replanted it, and we're going to get going again. Melons are developing. I'm really happy about that. And the butternuts, they will be starting to turn before too much longer. And we will harvest some of those and let them sit up and sweeten up. This is Brent, latest on the No Fuss. We'll see you later. Well, that wraps up this video. If you guys enjoyed the video, please comment, like, and subscribe. In order to subscribe, all you got to do is click the button here. We'll put a check mark next to it. If you want to get notification the next time I make a video, click on the bell here, check here, and hit save. You guys take care.